So, you want to buy a sewing machine? Let's get into it. Now, for those of you who are on Reddit or who are just gracing this channel, I want to talk to you a little bit about buying your first sewing machine. A lot of you have seen people sewing things, thinks it looks really cool, you want to get into it, you want to learn how to sew with a sewing machine, and there's 1.5 billion options out there. My primary rule, if it works for you, great. All the power to you. My second rule is, do not buy anything that looks like a toy or can be handled, that can be operated with one hand. For example, like this. I bought this just to give it a review. It didn't even work out of the box. And for those of you who are wondering, I lost the receipt. I would have taken it back if I could. And I'm not about to spend $100 to ship this dinky little thing to China to get it fixed. So I'm gonna see if there's somebody local who can fix it for me. So generally speaking, whenever you're buying or looking for a sewing machine, what you want to do is you want to look for something that is mechanical. You want to try, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, from the years I've been sewing, you want to try and avoid something that has a computerized screen, because those tend to have more problems later on if it breaks, and it is very much harder to fix. I am not an electrician. I do not know how to do programming for computers for sewing machines in the background. I can poke and prod at a mechanical machine and probably get it to work again, depending on the make, model, and what parts are available. I have replaced a couple of pieces on my Singer 99K machine, and I've taken the auto threader out of this thing because it was annoying me. If your machine looks like this, not necessarily this specific make and model, I'm sure you've all seen one by now, this is not a bad machine to start with. I currently have my own gripes with Singer. I probably should have gone with a Brother, but this was on sale at the time. And I needed something that would be able to handle punching through coutil, which is a really heavy-duty, heavy woven fabric, and possibly not go out of alignment on the timing if I hit a bone in a corset. This one has served me pretty good so far. I've had it for about a year now. I've taken it apart, given it a lot more oil, greased it up a little bit better. It should probably last me about another 6 months before I have to take it apart and give it a better oiling, or even more, like, I generally oil between projects too, so that's another thing. The only concern that I have on this specific model, is the plastic bobbin casing, because the drop-in is plastic, not metal. And that'll probably wear out faster than I prefer it to. So I might actually pick up a spare bobbin once I get working again to give myself a replacement in case I need it, because that is the most likely piece that's going to go first. Other machines that you should try and avoid. There's a whole bunch of listings on Amazon, and I actually did a little bit of digging. And some of them are purpose-built specifically for specific industries. Some of them are for high fast fashion. Some of them are for home use. I will take a minute to go through each of those. And again, this is my opinion. Every sewist is different. Everybody has a different way of working. I'll go through that with you just so that you can get a better idea of what not to buy. I realize I should have done this before a Black Friday sale, but you know, it's something that can be used and referenced to at any time of the year. Doesn't matter when. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention, you'll probably see these sewing machines that are on sale on Etsy or Instagram or Amazon, or pick an online scroll through Insta purchase thing. If it's less than $50 and it's brand new, do not buy it. It is a trap. It is a trap to get you to waste your money. If you are interested in learning how to sew, go to a class first. Borrow a friend who happens to have a model that looks like this. I'm sure they're willing to teach you. Go to the library. Libraries have various machines to borrow in a lot of cases. I know that there's a couple here in Toronto that has them. There's also sewing classes that will lend you their machine at like $10 an hour or something. There is tool sharing programs where you can rent a sewing machine to learn how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, make sure you tell the rental clerk or the librarian or whoever, make sure they know that you don't know what you're doing. And they might actually take the time to walk you through how to thread the machine, how to use it safely, and that sort of thing. So at least that way you can practice. Do not buy a brand new machine for less than $50. It is going to break. It will not last, especially if it's battery operated. Those are just, no, don't do it. And especially if it looks like a stapler, like the one I showed earlier. This cost me 30 Canadian, probably even less than that. Personally, I think it was overpriced, considering it didn't work out of the box. It is mostly made out of plastic, looks like a stapler. I even worried about possibly hurting myself if this actually turned on. It doesn't turn on. I have since taken it apart, no idea what's wrong with it, not sure how to get it to work again. I may have to, again, get a friend who knows electronics to take a look at it and see if they can get it working. If they can get it working. Essentially, all it does is do just a basic chain stitch, and if it doesn't work, I will just put it on a wall of shame or turn it into an art piece of something. The sake of exemplifying mass consumerism and junk tools. These are junk, do not buy. Right, I was gonna go on Amazon and show you a couple of examples. So let's get into it. So we're going to start off with a couple of examples of what not to buy, or what I recommend that you could buy, or something that would be pretty decent for a beginner. A lot of you on the internet, primarily Reddit, you're like, hey, I've seen people sewing, this looks like a cool thing, I want to be able to make my own stuff, I want to be able to fix my own stuff. This looks cool, how do I start? Or I want to buy a machine for my partner or a friend or their parent, and they're like, where do I start? The first thing I will tell you, no amount of looking at the internet and watching other people sew will make you get better at sewing. You have to do the sewing yourself. It takes a lot of people experience and time to get there, and just like video games, you gotta do the thing in order to get good. Just putting it out there, some people can pick it up really, really fast right away. Other people, it might take them a little longer. It'll take them a couple of fails. But that is part of the process. You're going to fail before you get good. It's a fact of life with anything. So if you're the type of person who's like, I want to try it, no, I suck at this, I don't want to do it, try and keep going if you can. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the actual nitty-gritties of some of these sewing machines. So we're going to start off with one that you've probably seen on this channel before. This is a sewing machine that is in my possession. It is the Singer Esteem 2. You've probably seen this a couple of times on various projects. This machine has been through the ringer. It was even given to me secondhand. And I've had this since before COVID. I think I initially threw the timing out on this machine when I was trying to sew a corset for the corsetry program. And I realized I needed something that was a little bit more robust. All of the machines in my household are Singer brand sewing machines. With that said, that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best brand out there. There are better brands out there. The machine that I bought, yes, I bought one of the Singer Heavy Duties. It is not the 44, whatever that number is. I'll put the most popular one here somewhere on screen. Keep in mind, I have a Singer Heavy Duty model machine. I bought it because it was relatively inexpensive. I thought they were going to be more robust than some of the stuff that might have been built in the 80s or 90s. And I was wrong. A lot of service people on the internet that are coming to you will tell you don't buy a Singer heavy-duty machine. Does that make you a bad person for buying a Singer heavy-duty machine? No, of course not. You probably didn't know any better, because Singer is like considered the biggest brand in sewing machines. It is the most universally well-known. Every single sewing machine I have in my apartment is a Singer branded machine. With that said, that doesn't necessarily mean they are the best. The Singer Esteem 2 that you can see on the screen here, it was the best for me at the time. I wasn't going to complain when somebody says, hey, do you want a sewing machine for free $99? Not gonna complain free. So I took it home, used it, made sure it works, everything is gravy. If you happen to find a dumped sewing machine on the side of the road, bring it home. See if there's somebody who can fix it up. It may very well possibly work. I have shown that I've taken machines from the trash and fixed it up and made sure that it works with decent timing on my channel before. This machine has done me service. I've made many things with it before. You can tell by all the bazillion D stickers on it that I've kind of made it personal, but I kind of want to give this one to a new home. In Toronto, I'll see if I can either sell it for like really dirt cheap, or maybe even give it to somebody who's a friend of mine who is looking for a machine that they know works and has been tested by somebody who sews on a regular basis. If they trust my judgment in that aspect. I certainly hope they do. Anyhow, this is another sewing machine that I have in my repertoire. The Singer Prelude. This is the one that my friends found on the side of the road and said, hey, do you want a sewing machine? Sure. I honestly prefer the buttonhole mechanism on this particular machine because you do not need a buttonhole foot to make a buttonhole. Honestly, I really do not like the buttonhole functions on modern machines that have been made in the past 5 or 6 years. That is in one step that you need a buttonhole foot for. Because if I'm doing a 2-inch button, the buttonhole foot is not going to be big enough, and even then, sometimes it fails. So I would much rather do each step individually rather than having to do it all in one. And this particular machine will do each step individually, which I really miss on my old Kenmore, to be honest. And this particular machine I'm going to consider my backup or my beater machine in either if the Singer heavy duty one that I have fails and I need a sewing machine for a project, or if to take with me to either repair events or possibly even work in the future. I have the little handle for the reverse button. I can still use this machine without a reverse button. I have a short coming out soonish that will explain how to go through those steps. The Singer Prelude, again, not bad for a beginner. It is something that I would say if you find one or if somebody gives you one, use it, go for it. Perfectly fine. Next, we have one of the bigger competitors for Singer branded sewing machines. We have Bernina, a digital machine here. The Bernina Bernette B37. I haven't had a lot of chance to work with Bernina machines. I have used one or two before, at least I'm fairly certain I have. I've used a lot of sewing machines, and I honestly can't remember every single make and model I've ever used. With that said, we have a machine that has a digital screen, so it has some digital functions, and the price point, yes, it's expensive. But from what I understand and from what other people have said, Bernina's customer service is a lot better than Singer's, and they are less prone to breaking over use, as well as a lot less harder to get replacement parts and things like that. Bernina is generally a European brand. I know that some of their machines are made in China, but that is fairly common for pretty much most manufacturing practices anyway. But if somebody offered a Bernina machine as a beginner machine, yeah, go for it. This particular model looks fairly solid, and from their reputation as I understand it, it's a lot better than a lot of the other brands that are out there. The only thing that with this particular model that I would not recommend is the digital aspect. If you're a beginner and you are just learning how to use a sewing machine, don't use a digital machine. The reason being, like, I personally try to steer clear of digital machines for the most part, because if something goes wrong, it is harder for the average person to fix, because you're dealing with a computer on top of mechanical items. And there is a lot less mechanical functions to a digital machine. It can also have the potential to break a little easier. This is not a knock on Bernina, this is just for digital machines in general. The Brother Star Wars embroidery machine. So we have some Star Wars merch, but this particular model does Star Wars embroidery specifically. As I understand from what I read about this particular machine, you can go in, download patterns from Brother for the Star Wars universe and sew them into your clothing. If you're a die-hard Star Wars nerd, this may be the sewing machine for you. Again, not beginner friendly though. I mean, cool if you want to just dive straight in, if that is how you do your workflow and that's how you learn the best. This might not be a bad machine for you. Keep in mind it's a little on the pricey side because of the embroidery and the computer aspects of the machine. I mean, it's not terrible if you really want Star Wars all over your clothes. So if this is a thing that you want, go for it. Just really thoroughly read the instruction manual first. This is something that I would take probably a solid month learning inside and out before I actually made something with it. But that's just me. I want to make sure I don't break my stuff when I'm trying to use it. And embroidery machines, depending on the length of the embroidery, you could have thread snaps or jams, which is a common occurrence across any embroidery machine. It's not just relegated to one make, model, or style. So just something to watch for. Oh, and to put a finer point on it, all the prices that you're seeing on the corners of the screen from the pictures that I'm showing, I pulled this in probably, I think I pulled all these images from various places on the internet, primarily Amazon, just so you can get an idea of the general pricing of some of these machines, closer to around December, like November, December 2025. So if you're coming in from the future, hello to future people coming into the channel. This is also a good gauge on how to see how inflation is, and tariffs, and pricing, and things. Next up we have a Janome with a almost, I was going to say, like a 1980s retro style faceplating. It's certainly a vibe, that's for sure. I don't hate it. Some people might hate it, but I don't hate it. It's orange and bright, vibrant green are not really my colors, but you know, it is what it is. I don't judge a sewing machine based on its color, I base it on its functionality. We can deal with the aesthetics later. So yeah, it looks like a pretty solid mechanical sewing machine. A lot of the bodies on these are going to be plastic, especially at that price point of less than $500. A lot of machines that are currently made that are between the $200 to $500 price range and even above, a lot of it has plastic parts. That is just the nature of the business. It's how a lot of these machines are made, and unless you're going with something that is specifically industrial, you're gonna have plastic parts. That is something that can't really be avoided. For Janome, I've used Janomes before. My former roommate had a Janome machine. It was pretty solid, and it gets the job done. If you're looking for a basic sewing machine that has some solid features, like this one has a couple of funky stitches, and it looks like it's got the individual buttonhole thing, which I personally like. I would say that this is a pretty solid machine, and this is something that you might want to purchase if you're going to get one for someone or one for yourself. Here we have another Janome, except this one has cats. I like the whole fun aesthetic of having cats all over my sewing machine. I am a cat lover. I have had cats in the past. I don't currently have one. Can't really manage a pet at the moment. Maybe one day I might, but not right now. I don't think I actually captured the price for this one. But it is a Janome brand machine again. If I remember correctly from when I captured this was about $250 USD. Again, plastic body, might have some slightly cheaper parts in it based on that price point. And essentially you're just primarily paying for the aesthetic of cats. But other than that, it's got the 4-step buttonhole option, so you don't need to use the funky feet for it. You have all of the different designs. It has a function where you can move the needle position on the machine. I would say this would be a very solid starter machine. And especially for a cat lover, and if you happen to know somebody who wants to get into sewing, who really likes cats, this is a machine for you. Oh, we're back to Janome again. This one looks like one of those no nonsense, not messing around, very basic, solid sewing machines. This one is one that I would probably buy if it was me looking for a brand new sewing machine. I know Janome's prices are pretty decent in terms of the quality, and this looks like a solid little machine. I honestly would buy this one. Okay, I have heard of Nichi before. I think I'm saying that correctly, Nichi. I've heard of this brand before. They've been around for a while. Like this is supposed to be a lightweight, light duty machine for beginners. 8 stitch selections. I like that it's got the individual buttonholers. That's a plus in my books. It looks like any other, like what I call a standard sewing machine to be. And the price isn't terrible either. I'm a little dubious on the quality at that price point in terms of the case and the internal structure, like in terms of how many cams are plastic or how much metal parts are on the inside. But as a beginner, this is one that I think is not terrible. It's got the basic stitches that you need. It's nothing super fancy, but it's one of those things that it'll be adequate to get the job done and pretty okay for, I think, learning as a first-time purchase. If you're buying new. We're back to a Singer again. This looks a lot like the Prelude and the Esteem. Again, pretty basic sewing machine, not a lot of money. Is it a Singer brand? Yeah. But you know what? It'll get the job done. So if you're looking for a basic beginner learner sewing machine, this probably wouldn't be all that bad. And not bad for the price either, to be honest. This is the Singer Heavy Duty 6380 sewing machine. I have this exact same make and model. And you've seen me opening it and getting used to it on my channel. You've seen me using it in various projects so far for the time that I've had it. I have taken it apart and added more oil into the machine on the oil wicks that are underneath the base. It's a pain to try and crack open the casing. As a beginner for that price point, it's not bad. But I think there are probably better machines out there. But I bought it when it was on sale. This is in USD. I paid Canadian at Canadian Tire for it plus tax, because we have various sales taxes added on to the price after you ring it through, which is here in Ontario it's 13%. Clearly it's okay. I bought one. Is there a chance that the bobbin casing in the bottom may wear out on me or break at some point? Yes. Do I have shops in my my bookmarks that I could possibly go to get it replaced? Also, yes. If you have access to a shop that has replacement parts for these, you might want to keep those handy. If you are a DIYer like myself who can fairly confidently replace said parts. But other than that, it hasn't given me any trouble so far. I've had like 1 or 2 jams, but that was probably my own fault. And I'm pretty sure some of it was my own fault. But as a beginner sewing machine, this isn't bad. Would I pick a different make and model knowing what I know now about the Singer brand machines for the heavy duty lines? Probably.
Is there a lot more metal parts in here than I expected? Also, yes. Most of the parts that are integral to the sturdiness of the machine itself, it's all metal underneath. I might take it apart again later. I have a little bit of footage in terms of me taking it apart and oiling it, but I'm actually surprised. Could the bobbin shuttle be better? Oh yeah. The bobbin shuttle will probably need replacing. If anybody buys the heavy duty line machines, make sure you use plastic bobbins. Do not use metal bobbins in a plastic bobbin casing or a plastic bobbin shuttle, because the metal will wear down the plastic a lot faster and it'll wear out your machine faster. So that is something that I have learned, and I have since switched all of my metal bobbins to plastic ones for this specific make and model. Yes, this one is one of those Singer heavy-duty classic vibes. I mean, yeah, it looks like a sewing machine. It probably works the same way as almost any other standard Singer sewing machine that's out there. I don't hate the black coating, honestly, but like it's kind of like they're trying to dress up a really crappy car to make it look like a really high-end car. The Singer Heavy Duty series is not as good as Singer likes to try and push out their heavy duty line. I don't hate the style or the color of it. It's just I don't think it's worth the $400, to be honest. If it was $300, sure, maybe I'd buy it. I mean, I already have one that's in gray for about, it was like $320 and change, I think I bought. Canadian, not American, because I bought mine at Canadian Tire when it was on sale. But, if you decided to choose this one as your beginner machine, I wouldn't say no, because you can still move the needle position, you can change the length, you can change the tension. It's not a bad machine, but I wouldn't buy it at that price. I would wait till it's on sale or find one that's a similar model that's a little bit cheaper, because you're probably going to be getting about the same quality. Next we have the Veritas Power Stitch. I have heard of Veritas for their irons. I don't know about their sewing machines, but based on the listing, I suspect they're German. And it looks like a machine that is meant to do business. I don't know how good their quality is or how functionality, like how well the functions are on the machine. This is one of those things where I would have to get one and find out. And this is no shade to Veritas, I'm just not very familiar with your brand. But it looks solid. It looks like a decent construction. It's got some no-nonsense functions. I would say if this is the only thing that they had in your area for the $800, provided that the quality and customer service is there for it, it might actually be worth the $800 if it's that good. But again, it's one of those things where I would have to check it out. It's saying it's bulletproof, but like, does that mean it's a metal case? Because I mean, no machine is genuinely bulletproof if you have to have plastic parts. And even then, even metal parts, it's like, is it though? I don't know. I would like to see somebody prove me wrong. But like, if you've used this machine, comment in the comments. Like, if this is worth it, by all means, please tell me. And don't pitch it like an ad if you are a Veritas machine user. I want to hear from an actual sewist who sews on one of these machines on a regular basis as to their thoughts about this particular machine. Sewing machines that you should not buy. This particular machine is handheld, so it is portable. It looks like it's battery operated, and it's specifically engineered to sew closed bags for things of like bags of grain or bags of rice or bags of farm feed. This is not ideal for the average person to be using for sewing clothes. Could you use it in a pinch? Probably, but you may wind up destroying your clothes in the process. So I wouldn't recommend this kind of style of machine. This is more one of those, how there's a meme where there's some specific ass machines out there that do very specific jobs. This is one of those types of machines, not recommended for the everyday average person. I wouldn't recommend buying this one. We're looking now at industrial machines. This is an industrial machine. This is the kind of thing that they would have had at school. I would not advise using a fully digital model like this one. I also don't know what brand this one is. I would be very careful about what brands of industrial machines that you buy, depending on their reputation and their customer service. Because industrial machines are a lot more expensive. They're meant for a lot of sewing really fast. These things go a mile a minute if you don't throttle back the speed. And I will admit, at school, I've come close to taking my finger with some of the sewing because it is that touchy. Unless you have experience in throttling down the speed of an industrial sewing machine, or if you have one that can be adjusted, I would not say industrial machines, let alone a digital industrial machine, those are not beginner friendly. Okay, so here we have a home serger. This is similar to the one that I have, except mine's Singer branded. Are they handy for sewing clothes? They can be. Depends on what the function is that you plan on using it for. For mine, I plan to use it to make my clothes look a little bit more finished on the inside, because I know that's what people are looking for. So if I ever do wind up selling my own stuff, I have something that will give it a nicer, cleaner look. And it also prevents fabrics from fraying on the inside as well. Can you use it to make regular clothes? Yes, but with provisions. This can do a regular stitch, and as long as you have the right needles for the fabric that you're using, sure, you can make regular clothes with it. Would I recommend it for making regular clothes with? No. I mean, you can if you're in a dire pinch and you don't have a regular sewing machine. Sure, you can use this to make clothes, but making clothes on a regular basis with this without using a regular sewing machine? No. Sergers are one of those things where it's nice to have, and if you have a specific purpose for buying one, sure, buy one. But for a beginner, it's not something I would recommend, and it's something you don't have to have. So next we have an industrial... This isn't a blind stitch machine. I've noticed on Amazon that they tend to use a generic looking machine that is similarly to do the same stitch, but it doesn't actually do the same stitch, and it doesn't showcase the exact same function. Because this machine that you see here is an industrial serger, but it's showing a home style regular sewing machine foot. If you see an inconsistency like that, or if you're not sure if you should buy, double check with somebody who knows sewing machines, because I wouldn't buy this machine. Not only is it not from a brand that I recognize, but it's also inconsistent with its listing in terms of what its functionality is. Same company. Again, this is a blind stitch sewing machine, but this is supposed to be a blind stitch sewing machine, so essentially doing things like jacket linings and things like that. This doesn't look like a blind stitch sewing machine, and they're saying it's for quilting too. I think they have their functionality wrong. This looks like a serger or it could be a blind sewing machine, but it's really hard to tell from this angle, from this perspective. But not a lot of people use a blind stitch sewing machine for quilting, as far as I know. Most quilts are usually bound instead of like bag lined. or at least for home sewing or home quilting or things like that. You don't need this machine. This is a very industry specific machine. And even then, you don't need to buy a blind stitch sewing machine. In all honesty, if you're gonna do something that's got a blind stitch in it, do it by hand. It'll look nicer, it'll probably come out cleaner, and you can make it a lot more stronger than whatever this machine will do. This is only one of those things where if you're gonna be going into the business, then sure, buy it. If you trust the company that's selling it, and clearly whoever's selling these, I don't know if they know what they're doing. Or something's lost in translation. It's hard to say. This is a listing from Amazon. I wouldn't recommend buying this machine. Here we have a blatant ripoff, but they're saying it's a Singer branded sewing machine when it's not. It has, I guess, a bazillion functions for $2,000, almost $3,000, with questionable quality. So, yeah, no. Stay clear of this one. So, no. Just no. This machine looks like, yes, it's got that cute mid-century modern look to it, but the positioning of the bobbin, I'm assuming that this does a chain stitch, just a single chain stitch, single needle, no bobbin underneath. It looks cheap. It probably is cheap. The presser foot is questionable. It looks like it's made out of plastic, and I would not buy this for $40, let alone $2,243 for one. Just no. No. This is not an industrial sewing machine. This is one that looks like it'll break if you look at it funny. Do not buy a machine that looks like this. This looks like it was made by AI with somebody with a pipe dream of making a brand, and this is extremely questionable in terms of the quality. Not only that, but you don't know what brand it is. Like, there is no brand. Is this intended to be drop shipped by like a random company and slap your name on the label or something? No. Do not buy. The image looks like it was made with a really crappy AI program. There's a lot of stitches, but like, you can't see the stitch selector very clear. It's got a digital screen, you don't know what it does. And it's by a random brand I've never heard of. For anybody who is familiar with this brand, please comment below if you've ever heard of or used it, especially if you are in a country where this particular brand would be very common. It is not a common brand up here in North America. Sure, it has a mazillion functions, but I would not buy this machine for almost $3,000, because this looks like it is the original design first print of what the machine is supposed to look like, not the actual machine itself, which leaves me dubious as to its quality, functionality, customer support, and whether it's actually worth it or not. I would not buy this machine based on this listing alone. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that there's other machines with that many stitches on it from a reputable company like Bernina for half the price or less. If it looks overpriced and it's got a mazillion functions, but it has like this weird AI cutout box around the machine, it's probably designed in AI. It's possibly a scam. Don't buy it. This listing is shady and they're not even trying. I would not buy if the listing looks like this kind of crap. It's AI slop. And you can tell that like the style of the machine is different. Like they're two different machines. Like the long arm for the sewing, like they even have the embroidery mode and the sewing mode mixed up. If you see a listing like this, just walk away. Again, this is one of those machines where they're trying to capitalize on the whole vintage look. The treadle might be new. The treadle looks new. But the sewing machine, they're faking the listing. That's actually one of the Singer Sphinx models. Probably a Singer 15 or a Singer 21 by the looks of it. I'm not as familiar with all of the model numbers from the vintage style, but Yeah, you can tell that they've fuzzed out the logoing. That's a Singer machine that they've plopped in there. And again, with reverse, that machine, if it's an original Singer, would not have reverse. My Singer 99K doesn't have reverse. And best for kids and women. Why do you have to make it weird and make it gendered? Like, seriously. Sewing is not just for a gendered role. Sewing is for anyone. If you have the ability to operate a sewing machine, you can learn how to sew. Don't make it weird. But I would not buy it, especially not at that price. And this is the same sewing machine that they were just advertising. Why is it blue with different labeling and a different head? I mean, yeah, it's all metal, looks solid, but I would not trust. So we have another off-brand machine. Old-fashioned sewing machine, household electric spinning machine. This is not a spinning machine. Let's be clear, sewing and spinning are two different things. Small sewing machine. This is not small. Solid wood base PVC box. You can't have a wood box and a PVC box at the same time. It just doesn't exist. What this is a ripoff of a older Singer 15 sewing machine. The original machines, like this is essentially a Singer clone made in the modern day, and they're saying it's electric, but they're showing a hand crank machine. I would walk away from this. You can probably get a vintage Singer sewing machine that looks like this. Yes, it will be used. It'll probably be from the 20s, 30s, or 40s, maybe even 50s at the latest. But getting one that is a Singer brand that's used will be probably better quality than whatever this is. Because you cannot trust what they're saying if they are not saying what's actually in the listing. And especially not for almost $2,000. You can do better for $300 or less. I mean, the Singer machine that I have, the Singer 99K, I bought that overseas because I wanted to guarantee that it was going to work when it showed up. I've replaced a couple of parts, but it's fairly easy to replace. But mine was made in 1937, and it would probably survive a bomb, maybe. I don't want to test that theory. This, however, it's saying classic nostalgia, but I very much doubt it would have been manufactured in the same way. I very much doubt it's cast iron. I would not trust buying this, especially not at that price point. You're better off buying a vintage machine and just getting it tuned up or refurbishing it, like from the ground up. And here's an example of another one that looks like a toy. You can tell by the way that the buttons look, like there's no actual stitch selector, it's a button selector. It's got a reverse button, so there is that. Like, you can tell this is cheap. This listing was, I didn't capture it. I believe this one was like $50 for the kit. It's really not worth it. This will frustrate you more than it will be useful. If your machine looks like this, just that you're thinking of looking at it, you can see that there's not a lot of sewing space in the under the arm. There's minimal stitch selections. I mean, granted, you don't need to have a lot of stitch selections to sew anything, but it looks cheap. And if the price is $50 or less, it's really not worth buying. I am impressed, though, that actually has a buttonhole. It's got a buttonhole foot. That's actually kind of impressive for a kit. But it's got a plastic thimble. That thimble would probably break within 2 seconds of using it. If you're doing hand sewing, get a properly fitted metal thimble. This is one of two. This is for my summer work, and if I want a shorter thimble, I have more than one. And if you really want to, you could probably make your own out of leather. I've got a leather one in here too. Leather thimble. If you're gonna get a thimble, get a solid metal one. This one cost me about $10, but shops that sell thimbles will usually have multiple sizes that you can try them on, see if it fits, and it should not come off your finger when you're working. So don't get one that's cheap plastic. It's not worth it. Side tangent and hand sewing aside, The thread quality is also very questionable. I would not recommend getting this kit based on the thread alone. And those scissors that they include, you'll be lucky if they cut the thread. This is an example that I believe I pulled off of Reddit of a toy machine. The presser foot looks janky. There's a spring that is visibly seen on the machine to lower the said presser foot, which means the quality is questionable. This has got such a small sewing space, and these things are usually fairly small, portable, battery operated, and lightweight, and almost made entirely out of plastic. If your machine looks like this, that you're contemplating on buying, do not, just don't, walk away. And once again, like if your machine looks like this and it's like $10 to $30, don't buy it. Don't bother. I wouldn't even get one of these secondhand. It'll probably just break. These are meant for children if you trust them with a high-speed moving needle. I wouldn't recommend it. So this is another one of those questionable machines. It looks like a toy, but it looks like a toy blended with a normal sewing machine. It has a movable needle, which is a bonus. It looks cheap. You don't know what brand it is. It has a lot of plastic parts, and the plastic itself looks cheap. Like, sometimes you can tell when something is made with a decent weight plastic. If this was like $100 or less, maybe. This is a maybe. Maybe, but questionable. I mean, it's got the reverse button. It's got a short arm, but it's okay for a beginner, I suppose. And it's got a needle thread cutter, or it's got a thread cutter on the side, but like the quality of the plastic is questionable. Don't buy it. It's not worth it. I'm sure it's handy to someone out there. These range between $10 and $30. They are very prone to breaking very easily. You have run a greater risk of hurting yourself than actually sewing something properly. And it's meant for very quick repairs. Is it a sewing machine? Yes. Is it potentially functional as a sewing machine? Also yes. Is it worth to buy as a beginner? No. Do not buy it. I have never heard of this brand before. This sewing machine looks cheap, and I sure as hell would not pay for it at $2,000 for where the bobbin sits on the outside of the machine. I have a feeling that this is a listing for if you want us to brand your own sewing machine and slap your name on a label, this is the kind of sewing machine you would buy. And I think this is supposed to be for one machine. I would not buy this for $2,000. And just no. The shape I don't necessarily hate, but it looks cheap, and it probably is cheaply made. I would just walk away from this. And here we come to my personal choices. Now keep in mind, these are my personal opinions. These have nothing to do with the views or anything having to do with, this is my own personal choice and what my personal preferences are. This machine that you see in this screen was pulled off of Pinterest, I think. It's a Singer FashionMate 237. This is one of the machines that if I was presented with one as a gift, or if somebody gave it to me to fix up, or if I was to find one fairly inexpensively to purchase, I would buy it in a heartbeat. I am almost dead certain this is the same make and model that I learned how to use to sew on from my parents. This may very well be the very same make and, well, it's the same brand. Like, I know, I've used Singer machines all my life, and I'm pretty sure this is the same model number. It's got a needle positioning that can be moved. It's got a zigzag function, and it has a stitch length and a reverse function. You can use the hand wheel to move the needle as necessary. You've got your thread tension on the tension knob there, and you can change the tension on the presser foot. This is something I would buy in a heartbeat if I could. Solid metal construction, very little plastic. If I could get replacement parts for it, I absolutely would. Would I bring this into a machine shop to get it repaired, get parts replaced if I had to? Absolutely. This is one of those things that is built like a tank. The machine that I learned on was passed down from other members in the family before I even started using it. Unfortunately, this machine was... my parents got rid of this machine, and I really wish they would have asked me if I wanted it, because I would have wanted this in a heartbeat. I've learned a few things about how to manage to not have stitches skip. I would have taken this thing apart and tried to maintain it myself, and if not, I would have taken it to a shop to get refurbished and fixed up, because these older machines are absolutely worth the investment of getting it fixed. Some of them will have a little bit of quirks if you decide to go with a vintage machine. Sometimes certain older machines have their own personality. I've learned that over the years with constantly having older machines in my repertoire and learning from my 1937 hand crank machine. Is the bobbin itself a little bit of a pain in the butt to get in underneath the needle plate? Yeah, kinda. But it's worth a little bit of the struggle for something that is going to last, work actually heavy-duty. As long as you treat the machine properly and use the proper techniques, this will go through denim fairly easily. Or several layers of fabric or quilting and things like that. The one thing that you probably have to watch for older machines is if it's a slanted presser foot and slanted needle arm. There is ones that I've worked on that's called the Slant-O-Matic, the Singer 404 series, or the Singer 401 series. Those ones need specialty feet, but the cool thing is they have cams that have different stitches that you can get for them. A friend of mine brought one to me to take a look at, oil up, and I bought them some cams for it. I found it on Etsy, I think it was. And I hope that the machine is still serving them well. But yeah, this is one of those machines that I would buy in a heartbeat if I had the means, space, and money to do so. And this is if somebody is really going hardcore and will be expecting to be using a sewing machine for life. If I had the space and didn't run the risk of leaking sewing machine oil everywhere and had a means of disposing of sewing machine oil safely, I would buy an industrial sewing machine. Specifically, one of the Jukies or Reliable with no digital functions that had a zigzag function. I've used Jukies at school. I have used Reliables at school. I don't think I've used any of the Singer ones at George Brown. I don't recall. I don't think I did. They have a couple of Singer sewing machines that are industrial at George Brown as well, the college that I'm going to. And these things are built like a tank. They are intended for industry use. So this is something that I would probably buy if I had the money to do so. Like these machines run like $2 or $3 grand at minimum. But if I had the money to, I probably would. I would never need to buy a sewing machine ever again. I don't have a car, so it would be almost impossible for me to get this to like a service person to get it looked at if something went wrong, which is one of the reasons why I tend to use home sewing machines, because that's portable. I can lift it, I can take it on the transit if I have to get it looked at if it's something that's beyond my skill of being able to repair it on my own. And that is essentially one of the reasons why I have home sewing machines. They're light, they're portable, they get the job done. Would I like an industrial machine? Yeah. Can I afford one? No. Unfortunately, no, I can't. I don't have the space, I don't have the money, and I don't have the means to get it around if something breaks. At the end of the day, whatever you decide to choose for your personal sewing machine style is really dependent on a few things. It's dependent on what you plan on sewing long term. It depends on the space that you have available and how long you expect to be sewing for. If you are working on things like home sewing for like basic home printable or paper patterns that you can get from like vintage markets and whatnot. A basic home sewing machine like the one that I have in my repertoire is perfectly fine. So my final thoughts on a sewing machine as to what you should buy. If it looks like a stapler and if it looks like a toy, don't buy it. It's not worth it. If you get one that is under $50 brand new, don't buy it. It's probably a death trap. If you find one that is used, that looks a little older on places like Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, Craigslist, pick an online forum, or if it was given to you by somebody who found one on the side of the road, or just one that's a hand-me-down, make sure you either have a sewing friend to help you to make sure that it works before you pick it up, or be prepared to get it maintained by a professional. Don't be like me who dives into their machine trying to re-oil it without knowing what they're doing. I have a lot of experience in using sewing machines, and I have a general idea on how to make sure that they are timed or how to make sure that they are well oiled or maintained. I'm willing to accept the risk, but if you're not willing to, make sure you get it checked by a professional. It is well worth the investment to make sure that it is working properly and that you maintain it on a regular basis. If you need to, talk to said professional about how to go about oiling it, because a lot of the instructions, especially for modern machines, they don't tell you how to do that. There's also YouTube. YouTube is a fantastic place to find information on how to go about oiling or maintaining your specific make and model of machine. So if you're buying brand new, just a couple of parting thoughts. Take a sewing friend with you or do a bunch of hunting around. See what kind of features you want on a sewing machine. Pick 3 and talk to a friend who sews not as part of their business in selling sewing machines, but somebody who actively makes things. Somebody who does cosplay or makes stuff for their dog or does quilting or who makes their own clothes. You will get a more honest answer about your options going with that route. And if your sewing machine looks like this, even if it's a Singer brand, that's perfectly fine. As long as you treat your machine well, don't try and maneuver things in it that could potentially break the machine or cause a timing issue. Keep it well oiled and cleaned out, and it is very well possible that an inexpensive $250 machine brand new could possibly last you a lifetime.